Hi everyone, welcome to West Runton Live. I'm Mark and I'm here as someone who's been a part of West Runton Holidays for many years. I've been a camper, team member. I've been on several holidays as a team member and a leader. I'm a parent more recently, and now I'm here as a trustee as well. But I love being a part of this organisation and being together with you today. We're really pleased that you can join us in being a part of West Runton Live, and hope you find this event interesting. We're going to be using Zoom and we're going to be using pre-recorded elements to bring together a sense of how we can be an organisation together. Of course, it's been a very difficult year for many of us in our home, our family and work situations. But I hope it's been a time where we've known God's presence in these tough times. As trustees, we really appreciate your ongoing commitment to West Runton Holidays as team, as supporters, as people who've been prepared to put yourselves out and be ready to serve. And thank you really for being there. And, despite our plans changing, you've been there to be a part of who we are. Of course, it's a shame but we can't meet in person today. But thanks to the internet, we are together. And I believe that as we meet, that God is here in our midst. And we're talking about the plans we have. We're talking about how we've coped with the changes this summer. But I believe we do that in the context of prayer and laying as before God what we do together. So this event has two parts. This video now is pre-recorded, but we're going to be on a Zoom together as well, when we'll be able to pray and chat about some of our plans. We're going to be having some worship songs. We're going to be hearing a short thought from the Bible from Pete Walker, and we're also just going to be able to spend some time just together as an organisation, and that's good. Let's start with a short prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for our shared calling. Thank you that you have spoken to each one of us and made yourself known to us. And you've called us to share you, to share Jesus with young people. Lord, I pray that you would revive our faith, that we would know you afresh in our lives, in our communities, but also in our shared community, sharing Jesus with young people in our country through holidays. Bless us now as we gather in your name. Amen.
In our hearts again, in us we pray, unveil your wide way. Come set our hearts ablaze with hope, like wildfire in our every soul. Holy Spirit, come invade us now. We are your church. We need your power in us. We seek your kingdom first. We hunger and we thirst. We refuse to waste our lives for your joy and praise. To see the captive hearts released, the hurt, the sick, the poor, the peace. We lay down our lives for heaven's cause. We are your church. We revive this earth. Build your kingdom here, let the darkness flee.
name's Adam Tuckwell and I lead Dolphin Launchpad with my wife Laura. We were really sad not to be able to have camp together this year, as all of you were, I'm sure. So we decided instead to host Dolphin Launchpad in lockdown. So we had on the first day, or what would have been the first day of our holiday, we had a day of activities where a team got together with campers to do a variety of different activities, which range from building a den or a DIY tent for people to enjoy, through to creating a camp meal for their families. We sent them recipe cards with a range of recipes on for cooking for 150 people, so they had to tailor it for their family size and their friend size. And then the final thing that we did, we wanted to recreate one of the highlights of our camp, which is the Runton's Got Talent show that we host one of the final evenings of camp. And so we invited campers and team members to put together videos or animations or songs or creative things that they could share their talents with others. And then we hosted a live talent show using Zoom for members of our camp to join in. And it was lovely to have so many families come and join us. It was great because it meant that parents could enjoy elements of camp as well as the campers. And here's a small selection of what we enjoyed on Dolphin Launchpad Talent Show back in August. We hope you enjoy it.
Pancakes, early in the morning when I get out of bed, there's only one food that I want to be fed. No, I don't want eggs and I don't want bacon. Fire up the griddle and get to pancaking. Pancake rockin'. Grab that spatula and get the flip-floppin'. Pancake rockin'. Ain't no stopping till the toppings are dropping. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, they're going down so fast you can't keep the score. Do you like waffles? No, I don't. And don't ask me if I like French toast. I like pancakes. They're super great. Pancakes. Put them on my plate, yeah. Pancakes. I can't hardly wait for pancakes. Say how many pancakes can you eat? Oh, about 103. Pancakes. Pancake rockin'. Pancake rockin'.
Hello there. You join me, Caleb G, freelance roving reporter for TNTTT. We've heard reports that there are strange creatures in the nearby undergrowth, terrorising locals. The public have been told to stay inside, but me and my team have come out bravely to search for them.
Give
Sophie and Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today. We really wanted to get some voices from young people to find out how they found 2020, because 2020 has been a really funny year for all of us, and we've all been experiencing it in our own different ways. But one of the things we really wanted to share today with people who are watching was what it's been like for some of the young people who would have come on our holidays, but who haven't been able to. So we're going to start by just finding out a little bit about you in terms of what's your involvement with West Runton. So let's start with you, Matthew. What holidays have you been on the past, and what were you going to do this year?
In the past, I've been to Dolphin Launchpad quite a few times. This year, I was going to do Kart Camp Monaco. It would have been my third year there. So I'm a bit disappointed that it's been cancelled.
Understandably. What about you, Sophie?
In the past, I've done Dolphin, and I was booked on for Dolphin Launchpad again this year.
Fantastic. And Sophie, what is it that you really like about going on West Runton holidays?
Well, I like how all of the different holidays, they're really varied. So on one camp you might do karting, another camp you might do surfing. Then you've got like a few camps which are like mixed activities, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What about you, Matthew? What do you like about West Runton holidays?
I like the friendly atmosphere, the kind of religious aspect to it, and all the services and the music. Kart camp specifically, I quite like the small bubble that everyone's in, and the small group, everyone kind of friends, and all the karting. Yeah.
Wonderful. Matthew, so you use that magic word bubble, which is a word that come the start of this year, probably none of us would have ever used, but now we're all very familiar with bubbles and different types of bubbles. Let's talk a little bit about how this year has been for you. So tell us both what it's been like. So what happened back in March when you were told that you weren't allowed to go to school anymore? What's it been like since then? Let's start with you, Matthew.
Ooh, the 20th of March, that was the day when our schools closed. Everything kind of stopped. On the Monday, we thought, oh, everything will be fine. We'll be able to keep going to school, keep doing all our clubs. Friday, schools closed, choirs are ended, all kind of musical things have finished. A few months later, we found out camp's going to be cancelled and was postponed until next year. So it was a big shock, quite a lot to get used to. But it kind of, over time, I got used to it. I kind of got into the routine of things. And I actually found that actually being at home with my family wasn't that bad after all.
That's wonderful. Perhaps your dad's listening in the background, so well done, Dad. Sophie, what about you? How did you find the experience of this year?
I found it okay when we got told to go home and that it was all in lockdown. Because the swimming pools were closed, I took up tennis and I did lots of badminton and tennis. And also our lessons got cut down to half an hour. So whenever I had any free time, I was just trying to do things to make sure that I wasn't too bored.
That's.
You did a lot of sewing, didn't you? Yeah.
And what happened with your churches then? So you both go to church, don't you? So what happened with church and your life outside of school and home?
Everything kind of stopped. Lots of it went online. So we kind of had to figure out how to access the online services. We both sing and we're both choristers in a church choir. Mm-hmm. And so those rehearsals went online. We kind of had to do remote recordings for online services, which was fun, but a bit strange and quite a lot to get used to. But yeah, big transition.
Big transition. So do you think are you now back at school? What's happening now? Are you both back into school and back into routine?
Yeah, we're back at school. Everything's gone a bit towards normal now. I guess we're settling into what is the new normal with masks and things. We both get the tube to school. So it's kind of getting used to wearing a face mask, not getting a face mask, not losing it. Yeah. It's a bit strange, but it's nice to be back and seeing people. Yeah. And so especially after these, it's a good thing.
So it's all been very strange. What did you miss most about not going on the holiday then, Sophie? What do you think? What did you miss the most?
Well, I missed like not being able to see the friends that I usually see there, and obviously the quiet times and not seeing all the leaders as well.
Mm.
But it was really good doing the Zooms.
Mm. So what did you do? What did you do on Zoom, just for those people that don't know?
So for the Dolphin Launchpad one, we had the option to like build a den. There was lots of chatting. There's an online talent show. It was really fun.
Wonderful. And Matthew, you did some of the cart camp activities as well, didn't you?
Yes, so I got home in like June. I found out camp was cancelled. I had to go into school for a bit because I had GCSEs this year, so they kind of wanted to see us and help us with our work. And I got home from school one day to this parcel, which no one knew what it was, and we opened it up, and it was this massive collection of cart camp things, restaurant and holiday stuff. So we had our cart camp T-shirts arrived. We had some food and chocolates, and we had a camp activities leaflet, which we've all kind of tried to do. So I think Let's Have a Sleepover was on there, and so I think Sophie got hold of it and tried to drag me into the front room, which was great because we got to have magnums at 10 p.m. So
yes. So that's wonderful. So even though you couldn't go to your respective holidays, you got a little taste of what it was like.
Yeah.
What do you hope for next year then? So what do you hope? Do you hope to be able to go on the holidays next year?
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to go. There won't be much social distancing and masks. For cart camp specifically, we'll be able to use the carts, whether we have to sanitize or kind of not share overalls and things. It'll be a challenge, but I think it'll be a fun one. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I am looking forward to just going back, doing COFCO and all the activities and things, even if we have to wear like masks and stuff.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm sure everyone will really appreciate getting a little taste of what it's like, and just well done, and thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Okay, our next guests, I'm delighted that we are going to be joined by Ben and Nikki Sinclair, who are the leaders of Cart Camp Monaco. Hi there, Ben and Nikki.
Hey.
So, right, well, it's great that you can be here as part of West Runton Live. Tell us a bit about how you got into West Runton holidays.
Shall I go first?
After you.
So most of you probably know a member of my family. So my parents are Sue and Glenn Finch. So I was a mini camper on cart camp and on base camp, and went and visited various other holidays as a little kid. I was really excited when I was finally old enough to go to D2DT as a camper in my own right. And then I went from there to Cart Camp, well, what was Cart Camp A. And I did 4 years as a camper, went back as a team manager, and then volunteered to help at Lakeland Challenge as well. I did a couple of years of team there, and then I met Ben and jumped ship to the other cart camp, the rival cart camp, and I've been at Cart Camp Monaco for 8 years now. So I've done kind of everything from cook, team manager, tech crew director, spiritual program organizer, ad, and finally commie.
That is quite a good list. Ben, what happened with you?
Well, I didn't realise West Runton was a thing until really I met Nikki, I would say. I was invited to come to Cart Camp by Helen and Brian Carter, who had a family connection with my home church. So I went with a friend in 2008, my first year. Did a couple of years as a camper, missed a year, and then came back as a TM, a team manager, and been there ever since. But it was
so Ben, what's kept you coming? Because you've done quite a good few years, Ben, yourself. I mean, what's kept you coming?
I think the great fun opportunity to serve God, and then met Nikki and sort of
Realised he could never leave.
Wasn't given much option, to be honest. So.
Okay, that's great. Now, Kart Camp, and particularly Kart Camp Monaco, what have you seen about it? Why do you think it's important for young people to go on this holiday?
So I think our age range is young people who are aged 13 to 16. And I think that we find that we have a lot of young people who have grown up in church, and actually coming to a summer camp away from their parents is the first time that they've thought about the Christian faith independently and actually explore what they believe, work through big questions, what faith means to them. And it's a really formative time in their Christian walk, and it's really exciting to be a part of that and to give them the space to do that, and obviously have lots of fun on go-karts as well.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think is the highlight?
I mean, the final evening is always really fun because we have our Grand Prix supper. So we do our kind of award ceremony from all of our go-karting races that we've had on the final day. So everybody gets dressed up, we have an award ceremony, and then we go from that to like a traditional kart camp game of leaders versus campers crocker, which is great fun. And then we have our evening meeting, and it's great seeing how comfortable the kids are with each other and just worshipping God and wanting to stay in that place that evening. It's just great.
I think it's highlighted in that you see them at the beginning of the week, then, when they're all very shy and nervous and they don't really know what's going on. I think that's why it's so special.
That's cool. So, what do you think it's been like for young people this year under the COVID restrictions?
I think it's been really tough. I think for us, one of the things we love about Kart Camp is that because we're right in the middle of Norfolk, there's no phone signal. And so the campers quite happily hand their phones in at the start of the week and have a week free from the pressures of social media and how they look on camera and what everybody else is doing and all their streaks and all that sort of thing. And it's really fascinating when we give them their phone. I mean, obviously they're allowed their phones, but there's no signal, so they don't ask for them. And when we give them back on the last day and they kind of seem to reconnect in with the world, it's quite funny to watch. And I think actually this year, more than anything, the internet has been so brilliant at keeping people connected, but it's also been so hard to disengage and have time to take a step back and to have real relationships and real time with people outside the internet. I think has been a real struggle.
Now we know why Kart Camp is in such an inaccessible place.
Exactly. It's all deliberate.
It's all about phones. Tell me, Ben, a bit about what you have been able to do. We haven't been able to run Kart Camp Monaco this year. What has been happening, though?
So we, I guess we're sort of tasked with what could we do. We were blessed and very grateful to have what was looking like really strong camper numbers. So we were quite keen to make sure that we at least touch base with them. So we thought that some care packages would be really good, really as a way of showing them that not everything has to happen through Zoom or whatever. So we wrote just a short message on a postcard for each one of them, which we tried to personalise. We threw in some chocolate. Who knew that there were Kart Camp or karting chocolates? We threw in a Kart Camp T-shirt, which is a standard every year. And I'm trying to think if there are
Bible study notes.
And some Bible study notes and the 50 things to do before your next one's not late. So we sent them out, which we got some really lovely feedback, and everyone seemed to be really grateful. We also did do some YouTube videos for both new campers and old campers, but we did sort of separate them a little bit because I think new campers would have been a bit sort of put off with the crazy things that go on at Kart Camp. And we sent the links out to them as well, so they did see some familiar faces.
So each of those videos had either some testimony or a short thought from a member of team, and then kind of a traditional Kart Camp silly activity like a funny story or a Kart Camp song or hat of the day, all those kind of quintessential cart camp things.
Okay. Tell me about cart camp going forward. What are your plans for the future?
I think to sort of get up and running again. It's often quite hard, I think, when you're, I guess, sort of almost like a standing start. I think we did keep some real momentum after the online stroke care packages that we sent out, which is great. But ultimately, we are going to be sort of reconnecting with kids and parents in a way that we haven't experienced before. So we want to get back up and running. We're hoping maybe to have some new go-karts at some point, depending on a number of factors. And hopefully sort of come in with some reinvigorated energy and really give a great week and share Jesus with them.
Okay. The thing I want to really ask is, how can we pray for you?
I think that this was meant to be our first year of leading cart camp, so obviously that's been delayed a little bit, and I think we had some brilliant team support from existing team who just loved Jesus, loved sharing his love for the kids on cart camp. So we had a solid core, and we were bringing in some new team as well, so kind of that balance of new and old, and things that work really well and some fresh ideas. So I guess it's prayer that as we put together that team, that our new team who haven't been before and therefore don't have that kind of same commitment that existing team do, are still excited to come and give it a go. And most importantly, that we have a full camp of kids who we have the opportunity to share the gospel with, because ultimately that's what we're there for.
That's great. A last word from you, Ben. How are you feeling about 2021?
I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it's trying to keep the momentum up from what we've had would be a great prayer point. I think it's difficult as things sort of dip into winter, sort of seemingly more restrictions coming, but that's fine. God doesn't stop in restrictions. So I think having faith in him and having our trust in him is probably most important during this time. It would be a great thing to pray for us as we plan for 2021.
We will do. Well, thank you for what you've shared with us. I look forward to hearing about how these plans for Cart Camp Monaco shape out in the future. Ben and Nikki Sinclair, thank you very much. God bless.
Thanks, Mark, and you.
Bye.
Hi everyone, my name's Pete Walker. I live in Bristol and work in South Wales as a trainee GP, and this year I was supposed to be leading Surf Impact in North Devon, and have only recently really been part of the West Runton family since Pact was adopted and became part of West Runton. So it's great to be with you, and I've just been pondering on what's been going on over the last few months with the pandemic and how that's affected me and us as a kind of organisation, as a group, as a charity. And I guess like you, like me and you, I guess we, every few weeks, months, we keep going back to our calendars and crossing off those things in our diary that have been there for years and years and years. And I think we've all had disruption in various spheres in our life, whether that be in our family or our jobs, our vocations, or camp. And we've been in these rhythms of doing these things, whether that be at Easter or in the summer or at different times of year, that have been a really effective way to see God's kingdom come. And whether that be through taking kids out on the water in boats, or driving around in go-karts, or going sailing, or taking them out in the surf and allowing them to connect with God's creation, and speaking to them of his affection for them and how that could change their lives forever. And I think there's part of us that really mourns that. We've been frustrated because we wanted to continue doing that, but also because it's exciting seeing people understand their status as beloved by God is an exciting thing, and it's a good thing. And I think it can be baffling for us to kind of turn to God and say, well, why has this stopped? Why isn't this happening anymore? And it made me think about the path to the crucifixion, and just thinking about how the disciples would have processed that when Jesus had talked about it a lot, but mostly in sort of symbolic or layered language that they didn't, well, evidently they didn't really understand. And then it came to the day itself, and it seemed that apart from the Father and the Spirit, Jesus was the only one really that knew why he had to do what he had to do, and what the plan was, and everyone else just saw it as foolishness. In Luke 23, it says, and this is just after he's walked up the hill, Simon of Cyrene has been forced to carry his cross for him because he'd been flogged and there was blood pouring out of his back, and his disciples, his family, his friends were there watching it aghast, thinking, this doesn't look like part of the plan. And then it says 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, there they crucified him along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, he saved others, let him save himself if he is the Christ of God, the chosen one. The soldiers came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, if you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. There was a written notice above him which read, this is the king of the Jews. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us. But the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God, he said, since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus answered him, I tell you the truth, today you will be with me in paradise. I cannot imagine being in that position of having given up everything to walk around with Jesus for 3 years, watch him preach and teach and heal and perform miracles and challenge religious authority and political authority, and then to watch him be flogged and then walk up this hill and be nailed to this cross until he breathed his last. And the confusion would have been bewildering. And I think we need to take heart that we are not the first people to be bewildered by the surroundings that we find ourselves in. But we must remember that God is not bewildered. God is not confused. He's not stumped. He hasn't been ambushed by this pandemic. This isn't unprecedented to him. He stands outside of time and sees everything before him. It's not a surprise to him. He is sovereign over all things. He breathed onto us and gave us life. He spoke the stars into being. He drew the heavens out in their vast array. He gave the land definition from the sea and the air definition from the land. He knit you together in your mother's womb. He knows the hairs on your head. He knows the thoughts in your mind. He's not surprised by this virus. He wasn't surprised that it came from Wuhan and swept across the world, and that now we're thinking about a second wave. He's not surprised. And we're not trying to construct our own kingdom. We're not trying to deliver on our own strategy and our own plan. Yes, sometimes God is gracious and he lets us run with things. He says, okay, go on, off you go. Go and do that. But it's his plan. It's his kingdom. And he is gracious and kind and invites us to complete the good works prepared for us in advance. He sometimes lets us in on the plan, and he says, do you want to know what's coming? Well, here it is. And we say, yeah, let's get involved. But this is not our kingdom. This is not our plan. We are not, the burden is not with us to kind of go, oh, what should we do now? No, the burden with us is to get on our knees and listen and say, God, where is your still small voice? What is next? Where is the kingdom being advanced in my life? Which spheres are you asking me to take a step, to push someone, to challenge someone, to console someone, to be compassionate on someone, to offer to pray for someone, to reach out to someone who you haven't reached out to in a long time, and to trust in him? In Proverbs 3, verse 5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. Do not trust in your own understanding, because our own understanding says, why aren't we allowed to go on camp? Why aren't we allowed to do this? Why aren't we allowed to meet as a church? Why aren't we allowed to sing in a group? Why aren't we allowed to do this? Trust him, because he knows. Lean not on your own understanding, but trust in him, because he stands outside of time. He holds the universe in the palm of his hand. And he will establish his kingdom. He will reveal himself to people, because that's what he wants to do. And so we can relax into the fact that God will graciously give us good works to do, because he's like that. He's good to us. And so there will be a time when we'll be able to meet again, physically, in person, and we'll be able to worship him. And there will be a time when we'll be able to go to Devon with 40 crazy kids and try and stop them from, jumping off the rocks and running in the sea. And there will be a time when we'll be able to sit down in discussion groups and ask those questions. But for now, God will give us other things to do. And we need to trust in him that he will establish his kingdom through this. And I'm confident there will be people who we will meet face to face on that day who will only be there because of a result of this pandemic. God will be accomplishing his will as a result of this pandemic. He didn't bring it on. He didn't said, oh, that would be a really good thing. He doesn't think this is a good thing, but he is using it for his purposes. And so, everybody, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. Let me pray. Jesus, we thank you that you're so good to us, that when we think things are foolishness, like when you had to die, you didn't throw the towel in, but you saw that the prize was ahead of you, the crown was ahead of you, and that crown is us. Us resplendent in your righteousness, in your purity, in your holiness, because of the atonement that you won for us on the cross. And we thank you that you're doing wonderful things, and sometimes we can't see those things. So help us, God. Help us to trust you when we find it really hard. Help us to trust you when everything seems bewildering and confusing. Help us to trust that you've got all things in your hands. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
In my wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. You are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence you won't let go. In the questions your truth will hold. Your great love will lead
Okay, I'm delighted to be joined by Chris Rowe. Chris is chair of West Runton Holidays Trustees, and it's good to be able to ask him a few questions and find out a bit about him. To start off with, Chris, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I first got involved with West Runton as a camper on Lakeland Challenge many years ago. And since then, I've been a camper on several holidays, and I've also been a leader on several holidays. I ended up leading base camp for a number of years, and then I became a trustee, and I've been the chair of the trustees for nearly 2 years now.
Okay, and tell me a bit about your everyday life when you're not doing West Runton stuff.
Sure. So I work for a phone company, for OT, normally in an office in London, increasingly from my office at home, and I work in data analysis.
Okay, and tell me about who else is in your life.
Yeah, so I live with my wife Sandra, who has also been on base camp. She was introduced to West Runton by marriage, as they say, but she's really supportive of what we do and of my role as the chair of trustees as well.
Okay, this year has been quite difficult, and it's been difficult for many of us in our own situations, but also for West Runton Holidays. Tell us, Chris, about how you found it being a chair of the trustees this year in particular.
Yeah, it's been tough. Obviously, we've had a lot of uncertainty, having to cancel our Easter holidays at really quite short notice in the end, and then sort of the gradual realization that it was going to be the summer holidays as well. There's been a lot of work, a lot of calls, a lot of admin work, as well as we've been processing refunds and making sure that we're not leaving parents out of pocket if we've had to cancel their holidays. And it's been tough. I think one thing that is really important to me is, even though most of my work for West Runton is kind of online or behind a desk or at meetings, last year when I was able to go and visit the different holidays, that was really encouraging, and you see all the young people engaging with God and with Jesus, and it means a lot. So not having that this year has been tough. I think, speaking personally as well, it's been a bit of a challenge for my faith, because I found a lot of my identity was wrapped up in my role in West Runton and all the things we do, and having a lot of that taken away or changed has been really, really challenging, but also maybe has helped me focus on some of the more fundamental aspects of my faith and what it really means to be a Christian, and that relationship with Jesus rather than what I do. And that's maybe been helpful for me in the end.
Okay, thank you for your honesty. And I'm just wondering how you feel about going forward to next year. I mean, have there been positives which now are driving us forward, or how do you feel about our hopes as we move forward into 2021?
Yeah, I do feel positive. Clearly, it's still a very challenging environment. We've had some recent announcements, and the news is still pretty bleak, if we're honest. But there are some good points as well. All of the trustees and the holiday leaders have been really supportive. I think there's been the potential for quite a few disagreements over the year, but actually we've been really blessed with unity and a sense of togetherness, which has been really important. And we've had some really encouraging messages as well. When we cancelled the holidays, so many parents and team writing in to just say, they understood why it was necessary and they supported the decision, but that they would really miss the holiday and they were really looking forward to us coming back in 2021. So that's really something to look forward to. So 2021, what do we think it's going to be like? Well, that's the big question, and in truth, we don't yet know. Like so much in life at the moment, it's a bit uncertain. We are currently planning on running all our holidays. They're all open for bookings, and we just need to monitor the government advice, check what the rules are, and obviously it's really important that all our holidays are run in a way that's safe and legal as well. So we'll be monitoring that. We'll be keeping an eye on government advice, and we'll be ready to make adjustments to our holidays if we need to, whether that's social distancing or testing or just the way we do activities. We just have to be flexible. But we'll be having a trustees meeting actually immediately after this, if you're watching it on the Saturday. And that's where we'll be starting to discuss our plans and talking to the holiday leaders for the Easter holidays, particularly as they're coming up next year.
Okay, so that's really the question: is how can people pray for you and for the trustees? What do you think people can lay before God as we try and support you?
Well, first of all, please pray for continued unity. As I say, we don't want to be falling out and we don't want division, but actually we'd like to see that continued spirit of unity, not just for the trustees, but across the whole organisation. And that we'd be making wise decisions. You know, we want to strike the right balance between being confident of the message that we proclaim and that our holidays are a good thing, and we really do think that, but we're not going to run holidays that aren't safe or that aren't the right thing to do, and we just want to make that balance. But you know, as I say, we're positive. I think after the winter and after the current restrictions start to end, things will be looking much better, and we're looking forward to that. I think please pray for our venues. You know, we're been fortunate or blessed in some ways as an organisation because we don't currently employ any staff, so we haven't had to furlough anyone. We don't have many regular fixed costs, so we're not in any huge financial difficulty. Also, thanks to the really faithful support we have from the Dolphin Trust and from many of the people who'll be watching. But many of our venues won't be quite in the same position. You know, they'll be paying rent, they'll be paying bills, they'll be paying staff wages, and they can't keep doing that forever. So just pray for them, especially at the moment. They'll be making some pretty tricky decisions, and we want them all to stay open and, you know, be ready to host us when we're ready to come back. So that's a real prayer point. And I think finally, just pray that we'd all be trusting God at this time. You know, whatever happens, God is in control and He is working through this situation. And we just pray that we'd continue to know that as people making these decisions.
Chris, thank you for what you shared with us. Thank you for your leadership of our organisation. And I pray that we'll be faithful in holding those things before God. So thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us this afternoon for West Runton Live. Thank you for your continued support for West Runton Holidays, for all you do as team members, as supporters, and people who pray for what our work is as well. If you're watching us live, this is the end of the pre-recorded bit, and now you can join us on Zoom. The details of that Zoom connection are in the email which you've been sent, and we'll also post them in the chat at the bottom of this video. And we'd be delighted for you to come and join us, and we'll be splitting up into some breakout rooms for some prayer, and we'll be able to chat about some of our plans for holidays next year and in the future, and spend time with people who are part of the West Runton family. So thank you very much for being a part of us today, and look forward to seeing you in the future. Goodbye.